That blue oval tells you absolutely nothing. Could be a $26,000 hybrid pickup truck getting 42 miles per gallon on the way to Home Depot. Could be a $500,000 supercar that went back to Le Mans specifically to embarrass Ferrari. Same brand, same blue oval. So today, I'm breaking down the 7 levels of Ford so you actually know what's pulling up next to you. Let's get into it. Level 1, the entry level. This is where everybody starts, and Ford has 3 cars sitting at this level: the Maverick, the Escape, and the Bronco Sport. The Maverick starts at $26,771. It is a pickup truck, a real one, with a bed, and it comes standard with a hybrid engine that gets 42 miles per gallon in the city. Who else is doing this at this price, bro? Nobody. A pickup truck, 42 miles per gallon in the city. The Toyota Prius is over there sweating. This is the, I need a truck, but my wife said something about the fuel bill purchase. Smart people drive Mavericks. Quietly superior people, the kind of person who never mentions their fuel bill because they don't have one worth mentioning. Then you got the Escape, $29,515, 180 horsepower. This is the car for the person who needed something sensible and drove past a Ford dealership at the right moment. Nobody has strong opinions about the Escape. Nobody has a poster of one on their wall. But it gets the job done every single day without complaining, which is honestly more than you can say about most people. And then there's the Bronco Sport, $31,590. Looks like it wants to go off-road. Probably never will. This is the I go to Whole Foods, but I like the way the roof rails look car. In Europe, all 3 of these fit perfectly. Right size, right fuel consumption, right common sense. In America, they're the cars you walk past on your way to something louder. Level 2, the daily driver. This is where Ford actually lives. The Ranger, the Explorer, the Transit, and the F-150. The Ranger starts around $33,000, 270 horsepower. This is the mid-size pickup, the one that fits in a normal parking space, bro. The one your neighbor got because he thought he needed a full-size truck and then realized he did not. Practical, capable, completely reasonable. The Ranger is the truck for people who did the maths. The Explorer starts at $39,755. 3 rows, 7 seats, 300 horsepower. This is the car that every suburban family ends up in eventually. Not because they went looking for it, but because one day you have 3 kids and a dog, and suddenly an Explorer just appears in your driveway, and you're not entirely sure when you ordered it. Has anyone ever actually gone out specifically looking for an Explorer, or does it just find you? Then there's the Transit, $47,400. Best-selling van in America, $161,797 sold in 2025. This is the vehicle that keeps America moving, bro. Plumbers, electricians, delivery drivers, caterers. If something got built, delivered, or installed anywhere in this country today, there is a reasonable chance a Transit was involved. In Europe, the Transit is equally iconic, one of the few Ford products that Europeans actually respect without being told to, and the F-150. Best-selling vehicle in America for 42 consecutive years. In 2025, Ford sold 828,832 of them. How do you even process that number? That is not a car. That is a national religion. Nobody has ever pulled into a parking lot in an F-150 and thought, this really says something about who I am as a person. It just works. It always works. And apparently, 828,000 Americans a year agree. Level 3, the adventure tier. This is where things start getting interesting. The Bronco, the Expedition, and the F250 and F350 Super Duty. The Bronco, $40,990, 275 horsepower, 4-wheel drive standard. This is the one that actually goes where the Bronco Sport pretends to go. Ford brought the Bronco back in 2021 after a 25-year absence, and the waiting list stretched to years overnight. Why does a 25-year-old nameplate still make people lose their minds? Because Americans have a very specific relationship with the idea of driving somewhere a normal car absolutely cannot follow. In Europe, the Bronco is basically a curiosity, a big American off-roader with a retro name. Over here, it's a cultural moment. People camped outside dealerships for this thing, bro. Then you got the Expedition, $61,700, 400 horsepower, 3 rows, the full-size SUV for the family that found the Explorer too small. They looked at 7 seats and said, not enough. The Expedition is the car for the dad who lost the minivan argument so badly that he came back with an even bigger SUV and somehow won on points. And at the top of this tier, you have the Super Duty, the F250 and F350, starting around $45,300, 405 horsepower on the base gas engine. But here's what nobody tells you about the Super Duty. The diesel version produces 1,200 pound-feet of torque. 1,200. That number belongs in a locomotive, bro, not a pickup truck you can buy at a dealership. The Super Duty exists for people who actually need to move things. Serious things. Things that would break every other vehicle on this list. It does not care about your road trip. It is going to work. Level 4, the electric tier. This is where Ford plants its flag in the future and immediately creates controversy. The F-150 Lightning and the Mustang Mach-E. The Mustang Mach-E, $42,990, up to 480 horsepower in the GT version. 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. An electric SUV called a Mustang. Did Ford really put the Mustang name on an electric SUV? Yes. Yes, they did. Was there a meeting where someone said maybe we shouldn't do this? Apparently not, bro. Mustang purists lost their minds. Ford sold it anyway. And honestly, at 480 horsepower, it's hard to argue with the result, even if the badge still makes people uncomfortable. In Europe, the Mach-E actually makes total sense. Electric SUV, practical range, the Mustang name adding a little drama to an otherwise sensible purchase. Europeans bought it happily. Americans argued about it on the internet for 3 years. Then there's the F-150 Lightning, starting at $47,780, 452 horsepower, 775 pound-feet of torque, an electric F-150 that can power your house during a blackout. Not a metaphor. You can literally plug your house into it. Ford took the best-selling vehicle in America and electrified it and kept the bed and kept the towing capacity and added the ability to run your refrigerator for 3 days during a storm. Who else is doing that? Nobody else is doing that. The electric tier is for people who want the future but weren't ready to give up the thing they already loved. Ford said you don't have to. Here's both at the same time. Level 5, the sport tier. Now we're talking. The Mustang EcoBoost and the Mustang GT. The EcoBoost, $33,515, 315 horsepower, a turbocharged 4-cylinder in a Mustang. Before you say anything, bro, is a 4-cylinder Mustang really that bad when it does 0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds? Think about that for a second. That is genuinely fast. And it looks identical to the V8. Same body, same grille, same everything. In Europe, the EcoBoost is the Mustang that people actually drive daily without crying at the fuel pump. Over here, it's the one people buy and then spend the next 3 years explaining to other Mustang owners. Then, the Mustang GT, $44,090, 480 horsepower, 5.0-liter naturally aspirated V8 revving to 7,250 revolutions per minute, 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds. This is the Mustang, the real one, the one people mean when they say Mustang. In Europe, this engine is the automotive equivalent of showing up to a vegan dinner with a steak. Nobody asked for it. Everyone noticed. This is the car your college roommate had a poster of on his dorm room wall for 10 years, and then one day just bought. And now, every time you see him, he is slightly more alive than everyone else in the room. That is what a V8 Mustang does to a person. It is not a car. It is a mood adjustment. Level 6, the performance tier. This is where Ford stops being polite entirely. The Mustang Dark Horse, the F-150 Raptor R, and the Shelby GT500. The Dark Horse, $59,000, 500 horsepower, hand-assembled engine, Tremec 6-speed manual as standard. 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds. This is the Mustang for the person who looked at the GT and said, I need more, but I need it quietly. No giant wings, no racing stripes, just a darker, sharper, angrier version of something already dangerous. Looks like it's on the way to a parent-teacher conference. Drives like it has something to prove. Then you have the F-150 Raptor R, $82,000, 720 horsepower, a supercharged V8 in a pickup truck designed to be driven at high speed across open desert. Not a track, not a road, desert. Who sits in a meeting at Ford and says, let's put 720 horsepower in the family pickup, bro? And who in that room nods and says yes? Apparently, everyone. Because nobody said no. In Europe, this truck is basically a myth. It does not belong in a European city. It barely belongs on a European planet. And then the Shelby GT 500, 760 horsepower, supercharged 5.2-liter V8, starting around $80,000, 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. At what point does Ford look in the mirror and ask if this is too much? Apparently never. This is the level where the Mustang stops being a muscle car and becomes something that makes Porsche drivers nervous at traffic lights. A Porsche 911 pulls up next to a GT 500 and does a double take because it looks like a Mustang. It should not be doing what it is doing. And yet, the performance tier is for people who have very strong opinions about Nürburgring lap times. Opinions they will share with you whether you asked or not. They drive one of these and they have absolutely earned the right. Level 7, the Ford GT. The final level, the car that Ford built for one reason and one reason only: revenge. In the 1960s, Ford tried to buy Ferrari. Enzo Ferrari agreed to the deal and then pulled out at the last second when he realized Ford would control the racing division. So what did Ford do? They built a car specifically to destroy Ferrari at Le Mans, bro. The Ford GT40. And in 1966, Ford finished first, second, and third. Ferrari finished nowhere. That is not a car story, that is a war story. Fast forward to 2016. Ford built the new GT 660 horsepower, twin turbocharged V6, $500,000, mid-engine supercar, and they took it back to Le Mans, exactly 50 years after the original GT40 humiliated Ferrari, and they won again. Same track, same rival, same result. Ford looked at Ferrari across a 50-year gap and said, "We remember." The Ford GT was discontinued in 2023. Only 1,350 were ever built for the road. You could not just walk in and buy one. Ford made you apply. They screened buyers. They turned people away. There are billionaires who were rejected by Ford's purchasing committee for the GT. People with private jets, people with yachts, people who could literally buy the entire dealership. Ford sent them all a very polite no thank you letter. Can you imagine being a billionaire and getting turned down for a car by Ford, the same company that makes the truck your plumber drives? This is not the car for the person who has money. Every level on this list has a car for people with money. This is the car for the person Ford decided deserved it. There is a difference. The GT buyer is not someone you describe by their bank account. Ford looked at every application and asked one question. Do you actually understand what this car is? If the answer was yes, maybe. If the answer was anything else, goodbye. Ford did not need your money. They needed the right person behind the wheel, and they were not shy about telling everyone else to leave. In Europe, the GT appeared at every major concours and motor show as the American supercar nobody expected. Europeans who spent decades dismissing American engineering had absolutely nothing to say. There was nothing to say. 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Top speed 216 miles per hour. Built by the same company that makes the truck your plumber drives and the van that delivered your last Amazon package. That sentence should not be possible. And yet, here we are. The Ford GT is gone. The F150 is still outselling everything in America. The Maverick is still getting 42 miles per gallon. And somewhere in between all of that, Ford also built one of the greatest supercars ever made and went back to Le Mans to settle a 50-year-old argument with Ferrari. That is a brand, bro. That is genuinely a brand. 7 levels, 1 blue oval, from a $26,771 hybrid pickup that gets better fuel economy than most sedans, all the way to a $500,000 supercar that Ford built specifically to embarrass Ferrari and then did it twice. If this breakdown helped you make sense of the Ford lineup, hit the like button. Subscribe if you're not already, and I'll catch you in the next one.